Gold Coast versus Rika, Fabio, and Alex.
So
We miss you, Drew. We miss you.
No, because this is what happened in Japan. Because this is similar to what happened with the Spanish and the Portuguese. Because they're from the same. Is it the same continent?
Same continent. Yeah.
Same continent. Yeah. Okay. So if you think of Japan as an island. Like, it's this tiny island, but if you go to the north of Japan and then to go to the south of Japan,
I know what you're saying,
they still speak in Japanese, but it's two totally different languages. You know, Yeah. So you've got your standard Japanese, then you've got your dialects, all these different dialects.
because it's an ancient country, so just like
But that's
not the same. No,
Not dialect, but a lot of different slangs.
For them, it's different dialect.
Yeah,
No, but we have different words for things as well.
Yeah, so do we.
We have different words
But
for
it's
things.
That's slang.
No, it's words.
If we speak proper,
Yeah, but dialect and slangs, that's a very fine line, the way I understand.
But if you speak the standard Japanese, people live in the north will understand what you're saying. If people from the south will understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes.
But also,
That's what it is.
also because we've got television, and like television portrays people from all over the world.
Yes.
People get familiar with. Oh, okay, this isn't the term we normally use, but this is what they use in that district.
Okay, well, I've got something to counter that, right? There are more than 1 billion people in Brazil.
No.
Isn't there?
250 million people.
No way.
Yeah, 250.
Which is 10 times bigger than Australia, man. Come on.
Yeah, we've only got 26
I thought there was a billion.
There's only 2 places in the world that have more than
China.
1 billion people. China and India.
Okay, I got that wrong then.
Which
Here's my question for you.
True.
Well, when the English colonised Australia, we brought a lot of English people here, and
Bad luck.
and it did a lot of bad things and pretty much wiped out the Aboriginal people. Or more to the point that happened. Plus, a lot of white people came here. Blah blah blah.
All in the patio,
So-
we see.
That's it. And the humidity.
We breathe.
That's not, we'll get to that later. But why? I'm looking at you guys.
We
You
watch the lightning
you got the
crack over Caneville's.
Last stand.
Shut up!
This is Australia.
This is your show, Rico. It sucks already. I'm looking at guys with brown skin, right? So what is when the Portuguese ships came?
No. You need to look
What
at the
kind
story.
of people are you? Who was there first?
Indians.
Yeah, Indians.
Red-skinned Indians,
So
like in America.
The Portuguese came
the real
to
ones.
Yeah.
my area, Salvador, Bahia. So that's when the Portuguese came, and of course they bring all these slaves from Africa to.
This is like
colonize.
200 years later, yeah? What you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go in
No.
that details,
Yeah,
but yeah.
This is great
They
Brazilian
came-
Jiu-Jitsu talk.
But it just came.
Come on, keep going.
Go on.
It just came and like have all the locals, the no Aboriginal, but the Indians, like
Indians,
indigenous,
red-skin
like
Indians.
what's the red skin? Like it's more like between
Red-skin
colors, the
Indians.
red skin.
Yeah.
So they live around Brazil, different tribes and different
Yeah.
around the
Like in
Brazil.
America, Apaches,
Yeah.
Yankees, or whatever.
Apaches, yeah.
And then the Portuguese saw the big place to colonize, and they start to bring the people from Africa to put it there to work, because the indigenous don't want to work, they want to fight. Same with the Aboriginal, they don't want to work and they go mad. So what they do, they bring all the black people from Africa and start to like develop the Brazil. We slowly starting doing that.
Really?
So is that like?
Can I tell you? Can I just tell
Is
you
it?
one
So
thing?
were you
hang
being
on.
But
bred
you look
out?
Spanish to me. So.
Hang on.
Just mix.
I'm
Yeah.
going to tell something you
Yeah.
might not know about the
Yeah.
northeast of Brazil.
Please tell us.
Northeast of Brazil was colonized by Portuguese, Dutch, and
Yeah, Dutch in
Belgians,
German, but Dutch was more Recife.
Yeah,
More north.
but what happened is
Bahia is full Portuguese.
the whole of Brazil is taken over by Portuguese. Yeah,
Yeah.
time went past, and the Portuguese Empire is sending all these people through to new land, like in America was, but in the 1700s and 1800s, when the black slavery starts around the world.
Yeah.
Portuguese discovered that too. They get a wind from the Colombo and all the other,
Yeah.
guys that are colonizing America. We found these places in Africa that we find black people, and we're taking them to work for us in our land. So they start taking black people to Brazil as well.
Yeah.
But mostly around the area where
Because
where he lives.
So when you say black people, you're talking African American.
African people.
African American.
No,
African people.
No African American.
African American are people brought from Africa to America. Yeah?
African Brazilian.
So African, like Kenyans and...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Name it. Any country.
Nigeria.
Any
country
Yeah.
from there.
Is that why you guys can dance better than us?
Because there's a
course it
massive.
is.
Because there's a massive.
Mix, yeah.
Mixed
Brazil is
influence
the
in
mix.
Brazil.
Yeah,
But see, this is when it doesn't stop. Brazil, this is in the 1700s and the 1800s.
Yeah.
Then we have the 1900s, where Brazil, as any other country that was outside Europe, suffers and accept a lot of migration from the Second and the First World War.
Yeah.
So what happened is, if you go to south of Brazil, you have Italians and Germans that colonized because of the climate. It's a bit colder in Brazil. It's like Melbourne, maybe Melbourne, or cold. If you go to southeast Brazil, it's a bit hotter. So you got Italians, Japanese, Chinese, Lebanese, you name it. São Paulo is the biggest mix of migration in Brazil because it's the biggest city of Brazil. Okay? Then you go up north. There's no much migration there, but there's a formed kind of race there, which is the local indigenous mixed with the black, mixed with a bit of Dutch.
And the Red Indians.
And
and
mixed
the
with the
Indians.
Indians,
So you know what you've just made me realise is how young Australia is.
Australia's a baby.
It is a baby. It's a
Because
baby.
what's happening in Australia now, from what you describe, is what's happened in all
200,
Europe
300 years ago.
years ago.
Then I'll ask you this, once you like so much current affairs. How fucking stupid are we to have been actually committing making the same mistake that this country's done 300 years ago?
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that because, and I'm sorry if I say something politically incorrect and piss people off again.
I thought the show wasn't about being politically correct. What do you say, Drew?
No, well, okay, get this. So, I'm seeing a lot of Facebook posts, and some of my dear friends post them. God love them. I don't like their posts, but I love them as people. And it's all about, if you agree to the Muslims coming in, then we don't have a say, blah, blah, blah. And they're always showing pictures or footage of what happens in England when you let all the Islamic people come in because they take over and right? And I just sit there thinking, yes. And what happened to the Aboriginal people of Australia 200 years ago?
You're right.
Like,
You're right. This is a bad
hello.
conversation.
Yeah, it is.
You're exactly right.
It is.
Let's get back to jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you're right now, Rico.
Oh, look, it was a good touching base with this subject. I think no matter how much we look around the world today, there has been colonization.
But people have to stop
There has
blaming
been-
and hating.
Yeah, I
like,
know,
you just
but
have to
it's
stop.
hard, Rita,
Yeah.
when but at the end of the day, that's it. We are one. We all are one. We're a big world, and people still put borders in, and it doesn't matter if you.
Okay, I think I can answer the whole question.
All right, go.
I lived
Drew.
in Surfers Paradise for 10 years. Okay? When the Brazilian girls got off the plane and they started and they were surfing, they'd get by you with those great Brazilian asses, and everyone, and just the beautiful bodies, and
Was it Brazilian?
and the Japanese girls on the surfboards. I'm only talking locally. I'm talking very dumbed down locally. What I think, right? I and then there's the Brazilian guys surfing, the Japanese guys surfing. But when I get the Middle Eastern guys coming over, I actually love them personally. I know I would get to know them and their people and people. But if I can't perv on the ladies, it's as simple as that for me. If I can't get the same, if there's some sort of weird problem, because there's a real problem there because those guys can look at all the other ladies and I can't. I don't have any sort of. I'm getting cock blocked.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying about, like, come on, let's learn from the past. It's like, don't let these people dictate how we should live. Like,
I agree, like the basics are there. The basics that I need to see you on the beach for me to really relax around you. Let's face it.
No, but Drew, but exactly, because that's what we've been doing since, well, you know, I can't speak for anything longer than 50 years ago, but in the 50 years that I've known Australia, it's always been about perv on the chicks, you know, like get on the beach as much
all
as you
positives.
can. Yeah, it was. And for someone else, like a foreigner, to come in and say, no, we don't agree with that, therefore you have to change.
Follow the rules. You're coming here, follow these rules, and that's it.
And that's
it's open. Australia is open for everybody. Just follow the rules.
And that's what I mean. It's like, come on. Like, it's like,
simple.
Yes, we can invite people in or we can accept people into this country, but you're coming into my house.
We follow the rules,
Like, if you don't like it, go home. You know, don't try and change me because you don't have to be here if you don't want to. You can go back to where you came from if that's more comfortable for you. Don't try and change what I do.
Yeah, and we can bring this back into the gym too. Sorry. You know,
just shut up. I think I should just shut up.
We've never been that political on this show ever.
I
just don't like to talk about stuff I don't know about. You know what I mean? And positives. Man. There's positive and negative to every conversation.
But
and
Drew,
that always leads to a negative.
Sorry.
Drew, can I tell you one thing, man? And I'll tell you this: as a Brazilian living in Australia for 21 years now. You know, especially, you know, the current situation in Brazil when you see, you know, there's a big price you pay for not being political and not addressing issues in your country. And my country, Brazil today is paying the highest price for not being political, for, you know, shoving away all the subjects that matter, you know, and just thinking about, let's have fun, let's dance carnival, let's think about football, let's think about the girls on the beach and whatever, you know, what you have, whatever have you. It's just, you know, we as citizens, we have an obligation to question. We as citizens, we have an obligation to actually care about the environment we live. Because the day we stop doing that, we don't have that environment anymore. What keeps these guys on their toes is actually us questioning them. The day we don't do that anymore, we don't have that anymore. What happens is they do whatever the fuck they want. They do whatever the fuck they want anyway. But they have to worry about the citizens that care. So never, you know, learn this thing, man. And I'll tell you from experience. Never stop questioning and talking about the place you live, the politics that surround you.
Yeah.
Because this is your country, man, and you have to fucking worry about it because, you know, now another current affair, you know, 180,000 immigrants. This is the quota that Australia takes today every year. Do you think that that's influencing the way you live, the way I live?
Can I just say something too in my defense is that I have learnt in the last 50 years of my life is the squeaky wheel always gets the oil. Always.
That's it.
But the squeaky wheel isn't always the one that needs the attention. It's usually the quiet ones that do need
yes.
And so in saying that, like, okay, I'm looking at 2 boys from Brazil, a boy over here from England, and do they complain and try and make us none of these people do.
That's what I agree with you.
And a lot of the immigrants that come to Australia don't expect Australia to change. They come here because they like us the way we are. It's the minority, the squeaky wheels that don't really need the attention, that are getting the attention from the politicians, and therefore everyone suffers. Not only people that have been here from birth, but people that have moved over here to experience what we already have are also suffering because of that squeaky wheel that wants to change it just for them. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you.
And most important, for me,
And
what
sorry
it is.
for all you listeners that wanted just a cool, chill,
Fuck
politically
cool, chill,
incorrect.
man.